Hey everybody, welcome back to Whiskey Central. If you're new here, my name is Shayla, and today we're reviewing Four Roses Small Batch. So I have some history for you today, but if you want to skip around other parts of the video, there's timestamps in the description box below. And if you enjoy whiskey reviews, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any new videos. Four Roses was founded in 1888 by Paul Jones. The original distillery name was Old Prentice, and they changed it to Four Roses in 1986. The story goes that Paul fell in love with Mary and asked her to respond to his proposal by wearing a corsage with 4 roses on it to a cotillion dance. This is probably a bunch of hooey. The other explanation is that the family that started the distillery had the last name Rose. Most likely all of that is marketing, so take it with a grain of salt. In 1943, the company was purchased by Seagram's, who decided to stop selling Four Roses straight bourbon in the US and moved it to European and Asian markets. In 2002, Japan's Kirin Holdings bought Four Roses and reintroduced the single barrel in 2004 and the small batch in 2006. In August of 2015, Jim Rutledge retired as the master distiller, and Brent Elliott, who had worked alongside Jim for 10 years, became the company's new master distiller. So you can't really talk about Four Roses without talking about yeast strains. Four Roses has 2 different mash bills and 5 different yeast strains, creating 10 different recipes that can be blended together like in this small batch. Each single barrel will have a code with 4 letters, like OESV. The O is just for Four Roses Distillery, S is for straight bourbon, and then the E, well, it'll either be an E or a B, that will pertain to the mash bill. The B mash bill is 60% corn, 35% rye, and 5% malted barley, and the E mash bill is 75% corn, 20% rye, and 5% malted barley. And then the 4th letter is used to determine the influence of the yeast. V will be delicate fruit and kind of creamy, K will be spicy, O will be rich fruit, Q will be floral, and F will be herbal. Alright, I think that's enough about the whiskey, enough about the history and the yeast strains. Let's get into the details of this whiskey. This bottle will run you about $37. It's owned by Kirin Holdings and it's made in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. It's a non-age stated whiskey said to be around 6 to 7 years old. It's 45% ABV. And the mash bill is a mix of OBSK, OBSO, OESO, and OESK. So you've got rich fruit and some spice from the yeast, and then you have a good amount of rye from both of the 2 mash bills. This is aged in new charred oak barrels, it's non-colored, and from what I can tell, it is chill filtered. Alright, I'm going to pour a dram of this, let it sit for about 10 minutes, and I'll be right back. Alright, I've let this open up for about 10 minutes, let's go in the nose. So you do get quite a bit of that rye spice. And then I think it makes sense. Honestly, this nose just makes sense. You get some rye spice, a ton of super sweet caramel, just like smells like sweet corn. It is a little bit drying on the nose. There's a little bit of fruit in there, a little bit of orange. I think that's kind of from the rye, though. I get that a lot with rye. I don't think that's necessarily from the yeast. It's a pretty delicate nose, honestly. Alright, let's go on the palate. Cheers. Yeah, this is actually pretty watery. I think if I was having this in a blind, I would probably say it was 80 proof. You get a little bit of a burn kind of going down, like a little bit of a Kentucky hug. Nothing crazy, but on the palate, it really seems like a lower proof. There's not a ton going on. There's a little bit of rye spice, a little bit of caramel. Let's go for another sip. Cheers. Yeah, this has lower complexity. Pretty short finish, maybe short to medium, just with that little bit of Kentucky hug. There's a little bit on the back, but it really just feels like a super low proof whiskey. The body and the texture on the palate are really light. This is a decent dram. I probably am not actually gonna finish this up, but I'll be right back with my recommendation. I bought this whiskey really early on in my journey, and I do think this would be a good intro to bourbon, but for me, at this point in my journey, I feel like I keep saying this, just doesn't have enough proof, not enough flavor. It's really watery. I would not buy this again. I think if I were to buy something from Four Roses, I'd buy the single barrel, one of the single barrels. I think they're around 100 proof, or the small batch select. It looks like this, but it's got, I think, a little bit of a gold kind of label going on, and I think that's around 104 proof. Both of those would give you a lot more to grab onto. If you're a year or under in your journey, you might enjoy this, but if you're over a year, this is probably too low of a proof for you. Another option that isn't Four Roses is something like OGD 114. It's got a really high mash bill, and a high proof that gives you enough to kind of grab onto. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Whiskey Central. Next week, I'll be reviewing something that my patrons vote on, so if you don't want to miss out, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, leave it a like. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Talk so much with my hands, I don't even know. In 1888 by Paul Jones. It was a... Oh, nope. The Four Roses Distillery. Nope. Nope. No. Nope. We're not ready. Clearly. It will be delicate fruit and creamy. Damn it. Oh, this one bums me out, to be honest. Like, I spent... How much money did I spend on this? Hold on. $37. I don't remember how much I spent on OGD 114. Measurably more interesting. This is just meh. It's just meh again, you know? I feel like anything that's lower proof, I'm saying that on, but honestly, if there's something that's low proof, I'll say that it's good for a low proof. But this is not. It's very watery. It bums me out because I want to like it, and I just don't. But, that being said, don't count off every Four Roses product. I just would not get this or the yellow label, kind of the lower tiers. I would get the single barrel or the small batch select. Those are probably going to be good. I bought this for $37 and I'm probably not going to drink the rest of it unless I'm putting it in a cocktail. 100-something whiskeys to choose from. I'm probably almost never going to pick this. That's why there's so much left of it. I've also given samples of this away. It's just going to sit on the shelf for a really long time unless I learn how to make cocktails. Damn, I keep dropping that coin. And really, there's nothing offensive about it. It's not disgusting. It's just not interesting. It leaves very quickly. The only thing you have is kind of a little tingle in the back. A little bit. It's weird to say Kentucky Hug because I know this is only, 90 proof, something like that. But it does give you a tiny little bit of a burn going down. But on the palate, it just disappears so quickly that I just cannot recommend this. Unless you're just starting your journey. If you want something like light, easy, a couple simple flavors to just kind of get your bearings, I think this would be a good bottle. There's tons of other, great options as well, like Elijah Craig, just a regular Elijah Craig. Sorry, don't mean to give such a harsh review, just trying to be honest. I wouldn't buy this again, wouldn't recommend it unless you're a year under in your journey. But I gotta say, I love what Four Roses is doing. I think the whole 5 yeast strain things is super cool. Just get something higher ABV from them. Okay, done.